Welcome to the MVP Show. Today we're chatting with a man who is known as the Flow Jedi. Ahmad Najjar is one of several Microsoft MVPs from Norway. He's an enthusiastic developer at heart and soul and an energetic speaker and blogger. Full show notes for this episode can be found at nz365guy.com/94. Now let's get on with the show. Hi Ahmed, welcome to the MVP Show.
Thank you for having me.
It's so good to have you on here. You know, I looked at your profile picture. Probably the one that I saw that stands out to me is the one on Facebook where you're rocking a wicked-ass beard.
Yes.
It's like you're going full Viking. Have you lived all your life in Sweden?
It's actually Norway, so no.
Are you in Norway?
Yes, I am.
Oh my gosh, it is Oslo.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna get flack for this straight away, right? I've been to Oslo. So you're in Oslo. Have you been there all your life?
So no, I actually been born and raised in Jordan, but then later, like at some point, I've moved to Norway. That was like 6 years ago.
Wow. Okay, because I just feel that you've definitely picked up a bit of Norwegian accent.
Exactly. Yeah, everybody's just telling me you've been Norwegianized. There's actually a word in Norwegian that says like you've been Norwegianized. So that's what actually happened to me.
Wow, that is so cool. As in, like, you know, I originated from New Zealand and I left New Zealand over 6 years ago. But man, everybody that knows Kiwis go, wow, you still sound very Kiwi.
Yeah, that's true.
So I met you for the first time up at MVP Summit recently. Was that your first summit?
It was actually my second summit.
Okay, so you're coming up year 2 as an MVP, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, before we kind of unpack that journey that you went on to, tell me a bit about Jordan. My wife and I, it's one of our list of countries that we really want to go to. And what are your recommendations?
Yeah, well, basically Jordan is a really nice country. Like it's sort of like with all the chaos that's going around, it's still like getting together. Everything is just a get together, and it's amazing. It's a wonderful country, peaceful country. There's a lot of places that you could go. Petra probably is going to be on your bucket list.
Yeah, it looks amazing. Yep.
Yeah. So
anywhere else?
Well, basically you could go to the Gulf of Aqaba. That's also further to the south. That's the only kind of like sea coast that we have, other than the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea is actually kind of like middle between the West Bank and Jordan. But as well, like this is also a recommended place that you could go, sort of like for medical purposes as well, because there's like a lot of good salts that is available within the Dead Sea that's good for your body, and there's a couple of resorts there that you could just go hit. And Aqaba is kind of like a normal kind of like sea. You could go there. It's actually facing the Red Sea. So it's a nice place to go. But also Petra should be as well on your bucket list. There's a place that is called Wadi Rum, which is basically a valley in the middle of the desert. They actually shot 2 films there. One of them was The Martian, and the other one is actually Aladdin. Aladdin.
Wow, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. So Will Smith was actually in Jordan, like I think last year probably, when they were shooting Aladdin. So yeah, it's a really nice place. You should be on your bucket list as well.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so tell me, what delicacy should I eat when I go there?
Yeah, so there's actually a local dish in Jordan that's called mansaf. So
mansaf?
Yeah, exactly. So it is basically it's dried yogurt with rice, and the dried yogurt is actually cooked with meat, and it's amazing. It's an amazing delicacy.
So is it lamb or that it's cooked with?
It's lamb. That's true. Yeah. So and probably you should try the falafel. So falafel is so popular as well in Jordan. You probably want to try that. So food is something that you should kind of like have a full experience of in Jordan. So you just try everything. It's just good.
Excellent. Is it spicy at all? Spicy food, or is it or more kind of, when I say spicy, is Is it more? Is it hot, chili hot, or is it more spicy, like a range of spices?
Well, actually, it's not spicy at all. So it's it's no spice. It's something really new. So you should try it. It's really hard to describe it if you have never tried it before. So you should try for yourself.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. So, kind of, what took you on your journey away from Jordan up to Norway?
Basically, I was trying for some time to kind of like, be exposed to the community and do more community work, kind of like, move forward with my career as well. But, unfortunately, it probably like Jordan is not, exposed as I was supposed to be. So I thought it's just, try looking for, work outside of Jordan. So I actually had a couple of interviews to New Zealand, a couple of them as well in Australia, and as well I had two or three in the U.S. and one in Norway. But like people from Norway were like more serious, so I was just towards that kind of like I've kind of like that has some gravity towards that, and thought like traveling to Europe, not really far away from kind of like Jordan, and staying like close in Europe, though it's really up north, it's far. But yeah, kind of like um, and it happened actually. I had an interview and things worked out fine for me. And because I had a broad experience in SharePoint, and there's always a need for SharePoint expertise, cloud expertise, and like everywhere in the world. So it was quite a ride, but I really enjoyed it. Kind of like rode the wave, and everything just went smooth for me at the end. And I'm so happy to move to Norway. I keep telling everybody I'm just kind of like a result of diversity. Diversity in tech. We keep talking about that, and I've actually moved to that. I've been exposed, to new people. Started moving around the world ever since I've moved to Norway, and a lot of people in the community knows me, and even in the local community here in Norway. So. I'm really happy, kind of like, I had a goal, and I'm kind of like, right now, I'm kind of like, working on it right now, and it's happening, and I'm so happy about my move.
So good, so good. What do you think makes you unique in a way that you decide to uproot from your home and your home country and go somewhere else, and like you've obviously engaged well, you've built a family, a community, etc. What separate, like, because a lot of people go, how do I become an MVP? What's unique about an MVP? What do you think the difference is in your journey to perhaps many other people that, if you like, wouldn't move from Jordan, wouldn't go out, branch out, that type of thing?
Basically, what I thought of is actually you have to find the right people to kind of like engage with, and you have to have the right place as well to kind of like to grow. So if you don't have the tools, you basically kind of like be sort of like a handicap. You can't move around. You won't be exposed in the right way to the community. So I think that Europe, the U.S., and different foreign countries, they do have the tools, they do have the right grounds to kind of like make the community grow. So that what kind of like made me think that probably I need to kind of like move forward, and that's kind of like split the difference between kind of like active communities and non-active communities. And that's kind of like really important to me. I've kind of like tried really hard to kind of like do some kind of like community work, but it's not as active and as strong as like outside, like probably here in Europe and like in the US. It's not as strong as that. So that's why I'm kind of like how I looked at it. And doing and move, seeing like go to new places, you have to make some kind of like you have to be adventurous, you have to kind of like um, put some goals, and whatever was the cost, you have kind of like to make some sacrifices, if you could say. It's a give and take.
So were you already, did you take your family up there with you, or have you, created a family while living in Norway?
Well, basically, I've actually got married in 2010, so that was actually before I moved to Norway. Yeah, so and then I've moved to Norway after that. and I've actually lived for 2 years all by myself, and just to kind of like to check the kind of like everything is gonna work out good for us, and the how the ecosystem as well in Norway and everything.
Yeah, yeah. So hang on a second. Are you saying you moved to Norway for 2 years first
Yes,
before you brought your wife up?
yeah, exactly.
Wow, man, that must have been hard work being away from, your wife,
Yeah, that's totally true. And like with two kids, it's just totally through. So I have to give her credit for that. So yeah. So I have an 8 years old kid and 5 years old kid.
And have you found that the communities kind of, or have you built the community in Norway around, SharePoint and now moving into Flow, Logic apps and the such? Have you kind of built that community, or was it something you already moved into up there?
Well, basically, I've moved up into there, and the funny thing is actually it's just 2 years after I've moved to Norway. And right now, I'm a co-organizer for SharePoint Saturday Oslo. So, so I'm kind of like I was on a mission, So I really wanted to engage. I have this passion for the community. I really have this kind of like, the driver that goes inside of me that I want to do that. I want to engage with the community. So just 2 years after I moved to Norway, I was also part of the board, for the SharePoint Saturday in Oslo. I'm still, an active co-organizer for that event, and the community is already there, because they people understands the how important and robust the community role that plays within spreading the knowledge and spreading the information, and the community is already there, so everything is just set up. You just have to have the passion for doing that, and you could engage just like that, in a heartbeat.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So, do you know a lady called Debbie Ireland?
Come again?
Do you know a lady called Debbie Ireland?
Maybe.
So she organized, like, my first SharePoint a Saturday event was, whoa, maybe over 10 years ago. Maybe I don't know. It was a long time ago, but she used to organize them in New Zealand and Australia, I know. And man, she was a rock star at putting on these very popular large, SharePoint events. And so I just wondered if there were any connections between what you did and other geographies around the world with
Yeah.
SharePoint events.
I think probably I met her at some event or something, because the name sounds familiar. So is she still in New Zealand, or she moved to
Yeah,
Europe?
as far as I know, she's still in New Zealand. Yeah,
Okay. Okay,
yep,
but the name sounds familiar.
yeah, yeah. She's definitely been around the ecosystem a long time. So, what version of I take it you started with what, Moss 2007?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I've actually worked a little bit with 2003, but that wasn't that much, because I was just doing the migration part from 2003 to 2007. But basically, I've spent most of my years working with SharePoint 2007, which is MOS 2007, and SharePoint 2010. And then when actually, SharePoint 2013 was introduced, I think I've worked with one project, but people, move here to the cloud very quickly. The adoption rates in Norway is so high, it's almost 85%. So basically, it's just one project working with SharePoint on-prem, and that's it. I'm just working in Office 365 after that.
The workflow tool that used to be in SharePoint was underpinned by Windows Workflow Foundation. Is that right?
Yeah,
Just
that's correct.
correct me if I'm wrong. So, is it still is that in use at all in Office 365 SharePoint, or is it now fully, Flow?
Well, I still kind of like work with SharePoint. I do still work with SharePoint PnP patterns and practices, and I do some PowerShell, of course. I do have the developer's blood running in through my veins. So basically, I'm a developer, heart and soul, and still do development. But I really love to do the automation parts and the business parts of things. I've done a couple of workflows, on top of Moss back in the days. I also work with Windows Workflow Foundation as well on top of SharePoint 2010. So I still have this kind of like, tendency to kind of like, as well work with workflows and as well as with SharePoint, sort of like a collaboration platform. For the time being, I'm just, working with Office 365 is, so I'm not working on any projects outside of Office 365.
Yeah, so if you think about automating something, would you automatically now? I mean, heck, you're called the Flow Jedi. I assume,
Yeah.
I assume that you default to Flow to carry out automations these days.
Yeah, that's correct. But I'm kind of like, I'm kind of like, try to be more realistic. A flow is a really powerful tool that is right now in the cloud, and it just gives you really powerful solutions that you could just do automation with, and even you could do some sort of like integration scenarios. But still, it depends because I always rate everything case by case. So if I had a case that people have some sort of requirements that they need to use other tools that are, partners with Microsoft like Nintex or K2, I would definitely recommend that. But that's actually based on their requirements. So I try to be more realistic than kind of like, be biased towards one product than the other. We are consultants, I try to do kind of like, the right thing and tell people what I don't tend to tell people what they like to hear, but probably just tell them what is they really need. You know.
Yeah, yeah. So how did you become a fan of Manchester United?
That's a really good question. Well, actually, I kind of like they were on my radar. At the late 80s, kind of like the beginning of the 90s. I've kind of like they had these kind of like reports at the end of the sports on the sports channel, and I watched the goals when they scored the goals, like Paul Scholes back in the days, and there's like different popular players back in the day. So kind of like had some really good gravity towards Manchester United, and they were like winning at their the start of their trip on the winning trip. They were winning trophies. And I kind of like stuck in there, and started be a big fan of Manchester ever since. It was, I think, I started cheering for them ever since 1993 or 1994. So yeah, I'm a really loyal fan.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So tell me, you've seen some change, right, from starting originally in SharePoint land to what we have now, which is, pretty much every project would be cloud based these days. Where do you see the possibilities of things like Power Apps and Flow going in the future?
That's a really good question. That actually depends how Microsoft's going to be driving these technologies, because when they introduced Flow came as a cloud automation tool for you, available to do automation on top of not only SharePoint but on top of everything, because they have these connectors, and you could just do the different integration things with it. So that's really amazing. But still, that depends on how things are moving. So there's some stuff that are actually still missing, and that's actually drive people towards other products. Like for example, they could move to Logic Apps, they want to do integration, or they could move towards other tools by Microsoft partners. The same thing as well goes for Power Apps. Power Apps is a really powerful tool. You could just create forms and apps just on the fly in a heartbeat, and it doesn't need like further experience. But you're not also stuck with the point and click, so you could just do other things. Developers could step in, do more stuff. But still, there are some things that are kind of like I feel that are missing. Like for example, the ability for external users to access the Power Apps. So there are some stuff that preventing people from adopting this technology. So they're kind of like this is Microsoft, after all, they're not a software house. They're a technology vendor. They drive the technologies. They have a strategy, and that depends on their strategy. But from what I know, and as an MVP, I know some kind of like, it's not an inside information. I'm not gonna disclose anything that is NDA, but but still, like I think the way things are moving, they're looking good, and Power Apps and Flow, they're definitely going to play a huge role in the kind of like, the next generation of, they call them the modern business apps. You could call them modern business apps, as the Microsoft say. So they're going to play a really huge role in the future. So they're going to be on top of things. SharePoint, Power Apps, and Flow, they're going to do, a lot of things. Yeah, things are not as they used to be back in the days. Like back in the days, projects really took time, and people knew that things would take time to implement. But right now, with these, powerful tools that you could just do point and click and just drag and drop and do all these amazing things, people would expect more. So basically, on top of that, people could build, solutions that are amazing, that would take, the way we look at business applications to, a different level.
So are you working in the area, or touching the areas of things like machine learning, cognitive services, things like that? Are you seeing that become part of, more of the scope of what you're doing nowadays?
Definitely, definitely. And they could see it as well. It's been included in different stuff. Like right now in Flow, you have, services that you could connect to custom vision, which you could build your own models in AI and train them, and you could use that as a service, and that's amazing. And even if you're like, more kind of like, developer, and you have a full team that is working with AI, you could develop your own AI algorithm within the Microsoft Machine Learning Studio in the cloud, expose that as a service, and as well you could use it within your flows. You could really build sophisticated stuff. AI right now is actually playing a really huge role in our life, and been embedded in most of the things that we're using, even Office 365. Like for example, if you've been working with people, and like, start searching for something, and Office 365 or the search in SharePoint would give you suggestions, and those are actually based on AI, and give you suggestions. You might be interested in seeing this document. You've been working with that colleague for some time on the same document, so you probably may be interested in looking at other documents that your colleague is working on. So that's really amazing. It's just playing a huge role. So AI is right now kind of like, things we haven't dreamt of, but right now we kind of like, we want to have them for granted. Right now we want to have them in place every time we use these tools. So yeah, definitely AI is right now is playing a really huge role in what we're doing as part of the applications that we're building.
Mm-mm. Do you see the future of kind of where you're going in your career? Do you see, you've had a strong heritage in SharePoint and in Office 365. Do you see that you're going to pivot more going forward into, if you like, the Power Platform, Flow, Power BI, and Power Apps?
Well, definitely I will. Yeah, so I really kind of like, had this really strong relationship with the Platform right now. So I don't think at any time soon I'll be kind of like, decoupled from that relationship.
No, no, but do you see, more my question is, do you see less of a focus on SharePoint per se going forward, and building a lot more, on things like common data service and things like that?
Eventually, at some point, probably it will happen. So right now we are working on kind of like, renewing the titles that we have at InfoWorker here and the company that I'm working with. And my new title could be is Cloud and Business Applications Architect. So yeah, so I'll be working on both sides. So I'll be doing some cloud solutions, still working with SharePoint and stuff, and at the other hand, I'll be still working with Flow. But thinking things are getting bigger, so SharePoint is getting broader. So you can't be, the master of everything. But I think that I've built a really strong connection and heritage with SharePoint. I feel that it's really hard for me to leave that. But I still have this a really amazing kind of like, love for the Power Platform, and I want to spend some time around that. So I think I'm gonna keep on doing what I'm doing and see how things gonna turn up in the future.
Yeah, excellent. What's a best thing in your mind about becoming an MVP?
Well, there's something I've told my CPM when they had the interview. The MVP title is just a plus. I really love, sharing information, show everybody what I've done, doing the sessions, share the knowledge, and do that. Sharing is caring. So that's what actually drive me to do sessions, to do the different things that I'm doing. And I've actually, as I said before, I told my CPM having the title of an MVP is a plus, and it will definitely helps me and give me some more tools to kind of like, go out and spread the word about the different products from Microsoft. But still, I have a passion to do that.
And what's the best thing about the MVP Summit?
Oh, wow.
And you can tell the truth. If it's drinking, it's drinking, right? Like don't deny it. But no, what is it really?
Well, apart from that, or like, in addition to what you've actually said, meeting with friends and seeing everybody that you've kind of like, bump into in these different, events is just amazing. It's sort of like a really extended version of kind of like, a hangout for everybody that you've been around for the different events around the world. That's something. In addition, that probably we could help even in a little bit, driving the way the technology is going, probably give a hand to Microsoft, give them feedback from our customers, what our customers are thinking. And it's amazing because different customers from different places of the world, they have a different culture, they have a different way of seeing things. And that's actually Microsoft, they're driving technologies, they're trying to give different solutions for the different people that matches everybody's requirements. And that's amazing. And we try to help, steering a little bit part of the strategy that Microsoft is driving. So, yeah.
Awesome. Alrighty, well, it's time to wrap up. I'm just going to have a couple of random end questions for you. I suppose one of my favorite questions is, what is the best thing you've purchased for under $100 that wasn't food or alcohol?
Probably it's the Alexa. I think the mini Alexa, I think it's just under $100.
Yeah, I've got one sitting on my table here, so I'm not saying the word because she'll light up, of course.
Yeah, I've actually turned it off.
So just on the Alexa front, oh, there you go, I've lit her up. So have you done any programming against it?
No, not really.
Fair enough. How do you stay productive?
I think that probably is just my self-prep talk that I do every day. It's kind of like, I do have a passion for what I do. A lot of people are kind of like, introduced into the IT community or the IT work because they think it has good money. And that's true. That's not, I'm not denying that. But at the same time, you need to have a passion for what you're doing. And there's a saying on the internet, if you have a passion for what you do, you don't have to work anymore. And that's true. I totally agree with that.
So good. Ahmad, it's been great to have you on the show. Before we go, if people want to connect with you online, how can they find you?
All right, so my Twitter handle is at Ahmad, AHMADN82. And it's as well, like you could catch me on LinkedIn. It's Ahmad Najjar, so Ahmad, AHMAD, Najjar, NAJJAR.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you're interested in becoming an MVP, I invite you to watch my MVP training series on my YouTube channel, NZ365 Guy. So just go to youtube.com/NZ365 Guy and you'll find me there. You can leave any questions or share your thoughts in the comments section on YouTube. If you want me to shoot a video on something specific, let me know and I'll get that underway for you. I hope you find that of value. As I said before, full show notes for this show can be found at NZ365Guy.com/94. See you next week.